Welcome to the Randy Report. I'm Randy Slovacek, your host. I'm also the writer and editor of therandyreport.com, where you can find me every single day on the internet reporting on the daily news cycle in terms of politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community and its allies. In this week's episode, gay porn performer Austin Wolf has been sentenced to 19 years in prison. Republicans in Congress are seeking deep cuts to HIV prevention and treatment funding. And an FBI agent was fired for having a pride flag on his desk. All that and more in this episode of The Randy Report. Earlier this week, adult gay porn star Austin Wolf, real name Justin Heath Smith, was sentenced to 19 years in prison to charges related to child pornography. The adult performer and entrepreneur was arrested over a year ago in June 2024. At the time, he was taken into custody on charges related to sending and receiving hundreds of videos of child pornography. Hideous. A year later, he pleaded guilty to one count of enticing a minor to engage in a sex act, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years with a maximum sentence of life in prison. After his initial arrest, the FBI executed a search of Smith's Manhattan apartment, which uncovered, according to the FBI, nearly 1,300 files containing child pornography, including 75 files showing infants or toddlers. He had reportedly been distributing those videos via apps like Telegram. Charges related to those files were eventually dropped as part of Smith's plea agreement. According to the documents filed in the case, the act that Smith pleaded guilty to included an unnamed co-conspirator performing oral sex on a 15-year-old minor while Smith watched, masturbating. Smith and his co-conspirator used apps like Snapchat to correspond with minors. As part of the plea, Smith also agreed not to contest the submission of evidence from additional allegations, including that he had had sex with an individual that he believed was a 15-year-old 3 times. According to those documents, Smith attempted to make arrangements to sexually abuse a 9-year-old child and a 14-year-old child. He also solicited child sex abuse material from at least one minor. Prosecutors also cited a February 2024 exchange with a 15-year-old boy in which Smith engaged in what prosecutors described as race play. This is some really hideous stuff. Court documents say Smith, who is white, referred to the teenager, who is black, using the N-word, while the boy called Smith a slang term for the word master. Prosecutors said the teenager produced at least one sexually explicit video for Smith at his request. Smith was not only an actor in adult studio films, but also an early presence on platforms like OnlyFans before he founded his own platform, For My Fans. In the wake of his arrest, For My Fans shut down. Prosecutors had requested that the court impose a sentence near the top of the federal guidelines, which range from about 15 to 19 years. They characterized Smith as a serial predator whose crimes extended beyond the 15-year-old victim at the center of his guilty plea. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, said in a statement, quote, "Justin Heath Smith's crimes against children are horrible. He targeted kids as young as 7, and every New Yorker wants him and those like him off our streets for as long as possible and never again near our children." End quote. I'll add to that, amen. In his 2019 State of the Union address, Donald Trump pledged to boost HIV spending with the worthy goal of bringing the nation's epidemic to heel by 2030. Last year, That federal initiative, called Ending the HIV Epidemic, demonstrated tremendous progress. This year, however, Republicans are seeking deep cuts to HIV prevention and treatment funding. The Trump administration proposed in its 2026 budget request to eliminate the CDC's HIV Prevention Division, and House Republicans are seeking nearly $2 billion in HIV-related cuts in their federal health spending bill. The Senate, on the other hand, proposes to keep HIV funding essentially at current levels in its corresponding proposal. Any funding bill must pass both chambers of Congress to become law, which would require the backing of at least some Senate Democrats and Donald Trump's support. HIV policy experts have expressed cautious optimism that the Senate funding bill would prevail, though they said the mood among them remains grim. Even if the Senate's flat funding wins out, worry persists among HIV advocates that Trump's Office of Management and Budget will, as it has in other circumstances, refuse to distribute the funds Congress allocates to combat the virus. Last year, the CDC estimated that from 2018 to 2022, annual HIV transmissions declined by 12% to 31,800. An updated estimate wasn't issued this year due to layoffs among staffers who conduct those calculations. Notably, in the 48 hotspot counties and other jurisdictions targeted by the Ending the HIV Epidemic funding, cases declined by an estimated 21% since the program's baseline year of 2017. The majority of the CDC's HIV prevention budget supports state and local health departments and community-based organizations in conducting on-the-ground work against the epidemic. Many of these departments depend entirely on these federal grants for their HIV work, and experts have said smaller nonprofits could fold without such funding. According to a report published in April in the journal AIDS and Behavior, halting the CDC's HIV prevention efforts would, from 2025 to 2030, increase the total number of new cases of the virus by more than 213,000, and the number of HIV-related deaths by over 10,000. House Republicans also seek to cut $525 million, or 20%, of the budget for the Ryan White program, which covers comprehensive care and treatment for low-income people with HIV. Such cuts would compromise many people's HIV treatment outcomes. Experts say this cut alone would raise the number of new infections by 12% by 2030. Here's just one example of how tough it's getting for queer people to serve in the Trump administration. FBI Director Kash Patel on Wednesday fired an agent in training for displaying a gay pride flag on his desk while appointed to a field office in California last year under President Joe Biden, according to a copy of the letter shared with MSNBC. The trainee, who previously worked as an FBI support specialist in Los Angeles, said the letter signed by Patel claimed he had displayed an improper political message in the workplace. Patel's letter reportedly read, quote, "I have determined that you exercised poor judgment with an inappropriate display of political signage in your work area during your previous assignment in the Los Angeles field office." He added, "You are being summarily dismissed from your position as a new agent trainee at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, and removed from the federal service." The letter cited President Trump's Article 2 powers under the Constitution to dismiss federal agency career personnel, a justification used in several recent firings at the Department of Justice and the FBI. I'll note, however, many of those terminations are currently being challenged in several lawsuits. According to a Justice Department news release, the agent trainee won an Attorney General's award in 2022. News of the firing has reportedly led some agents in the FBI's Washington field office to scrub their workstations and social media accounts for any signs or comments that might offend Trump, his top appointees, or even MAGA supporters. DOJ Pride, an LGBTQ employee resource group at the Department of Justice, shut down in late January, less than 10 days after Trump signed an executive order seeking to eliminate all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion measures. Here's just a few news items from the world of entertainment. I'm sad to report that Hulu's gay-centered sitcom, Mid-Century Modern, has been canceled after just one season. Dubbed by some folks as a gay Golden Girls, the comedy series debuted in March starring Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, Nathan Lee Graham, and the late great Linda Lavin, who passed away in December 2024 ahead of the series premiere. Mid-Century Modern received mostly positive reviews upon its release, garnering an 88% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I enjoyed it. While not groundbreaking, it was an easy, comfortable half hour that delivered some good laughs by a terrifically talented cast. However, it seems that it failed to find a significant audience. You can still watch the first season of Mid-Century Modern on Hulu. International pop star Madonna has revealed she's recorded a new song titled Fragile for her late younger brother, Christopher Ciccone, which will be featured on her forthcoming album due next year. In a recent podcast interview, the singer discussed her complex relationship with Christopher, who worked as art director on her Blonde Ambition tour and tour director for The Girly Show in the early 1990s. The siblings became estranged following the release of Ciccone's 2008 tell-all memoir, Life with My Sister Madonna, which detailed personal aspects of their relationship and her career. Although Christopher claimed in 2012 that the two had reconciled, Madonna said they remained apart for years. Christopher, who is openly gay, died of throat cancer in 2024 at the age of 63. Madonna announced earlier this month that she will release her new album, tentatively titled Confessions on a Dance Floor Part 2, next year, a follow-up to the original Confessions released in 2005. And speaking of music, out-recording artist and Randy Report favorite Milahroy recently dropped his new pop single, Sleep In, which sounds just as comfortable as sleeping in on a Sunday morning. Let's take a listen.
Give me a hard reset. I only think of you on weekends. Are we just here to play pretend? Can we keep messing without meaning? Then we said, what happens if we didn't leave this? Why don't we sleep in, take our time, jump in this feeling instead of goodbye? Got no good reason to let this slide, so why don't we sleep in? We said all the pieces, we're unraveling at the seams. I'm learning you, you study me. I like your friends, you wear my jeans. Your brother texts me once a week. Can't you see? This one's different. It's what we were missing. Then we said, what happens if we didn't leave this? Why don't we sleep in, take our time, jump in this feeling instead of goodbye? Got no good reason to let this slide, so why don't we sleep in? We said if all this goes to shit, at least we didn't fight it. If all this goes do shit, at least we tried it. Why don't we sleep and take our time? Jump in this feeling instead of goodbye. Got no good reason to let this slide. So why don't we sleep and reset? Why don't we sleep and take our time? Jump in this feeling instead of goodbye. Got no good reason to let this slide. So why don't we sleep and reset?
And that brings me to the end of this episode of The Randy Report. If you enjoy catching up on LGBTQ news in a quick podcast, I'd appreciate it if you'd share it with your friends. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button to make sure you never miss an episode. I like to think of The Randy Report as the 60 minutes of gay news, only shorter. And remember, you can find me every single day on the internet at therandyreport.com, where I cover the daily news cycle in terms of politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community and its allies. Thanks for listening, folks. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.